How's it, guys? This is Dayvy FPL and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video we're going to be finally taking a look at my first draft for the FPL 2020/2021 season. Heavy into preseason right now, and since the fixtures were released recently, I can finally do my first draft. I know a lot of you have been asking for it, but I just didn't see the point of releasing a draft without the fixtures, as that would not only be a little bit of a waste of your time, but also mine. So now that the fixtures have been released, and I have done a video covering them, link down in the description below if you want to go see that, as that'll kind of explain my team selection and my decisions going into this first draft. But otherwise, I'll be talking as well as things to consider in your drafts that are yet to come, as well as transfers for the first couple game weeks. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get into this first draft. So please, if you are new to the channel or have not subscribed yet, I highly recommend that you do so. Reason being is that you'll not only be able to get notifications of when I do release a video, and that'll let you not miss any of the juicy content that we're going to be producing over this preseason, but you can also join this little bit of a community that we do have here, and it's even more of a special community if you hit that notification bell and be part of the highly enjoyable notification gang that are always appreciated by me. But that's enough of the self-promotion. Let's get into the video. So as I said, there are some things still to consider that have not yet happened yet when you are making these drafts, and these are things that you're going to have to take into account from now till that game week 1 deadline. The first one is going to be transfers. The transfers that the clubs will be making, and the transfer window is still open, and there's big transfer news still to happen. The main reason for that is that the Champions League is not yet concluded yet, so clubs like Liverpool still maybe be signing a Thiago from Bayern Munich. That's kind of been a big rumor. The other big rumor was Jadon Sancho to Manchester United. That's kind of died down a little bit, but that's the one I'll be talking about. Imagine if a Jadon Sancho was to move to Manchester United. Surely that means that one of their starting lineup strikers or wingers is going to drop out of position, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us will be considering those players for the first couple game weeks. So that's one of the implications I want you guys to see for a potential transfer in the future. Luckily, there still have been some big transfers that have already taken place. I'm thinking of the likes of Chelsea, who have done a lot of their business already, so we can already have those newly transferred players in our drafts already. But just keep your eyes out for any transfer news and speculation that does happen, as it could impact the players in your lineups. The other reason is probably the main one is going to be the preseason. So some teams have already started their preseason. The likes of Liverpool already played this weekend. So the start of preseason isn't too important. Most of the players are just getting back from their holiday, rotated a lot. Generally, teams have a full starting 11 for the first half and then an alternative starting 11 for the second half. So not too much can be read from the starting preseason games. But the closer we get to that deadline of game week 1, the better. I'm thinking of the Community Shield even. I'm pretty sure that game is going to give us a lot of insight into that Liverpool and Arsenal lineup. And then there's other fixtures that happen around there in the preseason will also. So we'll be taking a look at a post-preseason probably review closer to that game week 1 deadline. We'll be going over all the potential players that could be starting, and also maybe some hidden gems that got a lot of minutes over preseason that we could be also considering. So as long as you consider these two things, you should be good. Kind of FPL is very situational, as we've seen with that game week 1 blank game week that suddenly sprung upon us. So you just got to kind of adapt your team to the situation, and that's how you can be a really good FPL manager. But enough with the talking, let's get into some transfers and team selection. So as I said, I'm going to be talking about my transfers because I think if you saw my starting 11, there'll be a couple of picks that you're questioning. So my transfers currently that I am planning, I know it probably seems a little bit over that I am planning transfers already, and I haven't even thought of my game week 1 side, but unfortunately that's just how I am as an FPL manager. I'm quite a planner. So my plans currently for game week 2 and 3 are going to be to look at a Manchester United option, probably going to be a midfielder. Currently I've highlighted the likes of Greenwood. I think at 7.5 million is a really good price. I think if he does start, if Jadon Sancho doesn't sign for them, if they don't sign another winger or striker, I think that they have to basically play Greenwood because of the form he was in at the end of last season. So I think Greenwood's a great shout. If he does start, I really do think he has the same scoring potential as the other assets, such as a Bruno Fernandes, Anthony Martial, and a Rashford, and they all come in at quite a lot more expensive than him. So Greenwood's probably my option that I'm looking at, and I will probably bring him in around game week 2 or 3, and then also game week 3 or 4 4 is going to see the likes of Manchester City midfielder come in. I think De Bruyne and Sterling, we can't really look past them. So I think them two are going to be the two players that I look at. Maybe I'm going to be banking a transfer in game week 1 and 2 and then kind of bring in 2 transfers for that game week 3 or 4 is yet to be seen. But that's kind of my mindset going in. Obviously, it's because Manchester United and Manchester City have that blank game week in game week 1. So I'm not going to be looking at having them in my starting lineups on that game week 1 deadline, but definitely looking to bring them in. And I think that could be a nice time to kind of evaluate our squads and kind of negate the use of an early wild card if we manage to plan ahead sufficiently. But let's get on and see how the first draft is looking. So this is how my first draft is currently looking. Now I know what you're thinking. There are probably a couple of picks that you're a little bit surprised in there, but I'll talk you through them. And I think at the end of it, you're going to kind of understand my justification for them. So starting off in goal, we have the likes of Ramsdale from Sheffield United. So transferred recently from Bournemouth, quite a good transfer in my opinion. I don't think his exact keeping abilities were evaluated at Bournemouth enough because of just how bad their defense was, but I think he made a lot of saves there, and that's kind of something that I think our goalkeepers always should have in FPL, is because they can lap up those save points if they don't even get a clean sheet. But Ramsdale, I'm currently leaning towards a set and forget keeper for the rest of the season, or maybe till I use my wild card. I just think that there's too much kind of pain in having rotating goalkeepers because you always kind of play the wrong one. So instead of 2 4.5s, I've gone for 1.5 and 1.4, so you can do the math on that one and check that I am correct. But Ramsdale looks a really good option. I think Sheffield United are going to rely heavily, as they did last season, on their defense that was super solid. Not that much in the last half of the season, but definitely in the beginning half before that lockdown period, they were looking really strong defensively. So I think he's going to be a good option and definitely a good goalkeeper. And I don't think we have to worry about that Henderson coming back on loan from Man United because of this new signing. I don't think there's any chance of Henderson coming back. And then the rest of the defense is pretty template. So the current template that is kind of forming in FPL, or at least the FPL community over on Twitter, is kind of the Alexander-Arnold pick, and then the rest of them are about 4.5 million and then the odd 4 million defender. So the reason that is because there's a lot of 4.5 million options that are really good currently. Stay tuned for a kind of positional rotation video that I will be making, and now that the fixtures are out, we can kind of look at the good defenders, the good midfielders, and the good forwards in actuality. So stay tuned for those videos that will be coming up quite soon on the channel. So the other 4.5 options I've gone for is Walker Peters from Southampton, a new signing as well. He was on loan at Southampton last season, and the reason I've gone for him, I wanted to say you could maybe go for Ramsdale and Walker Peters, or maybe you prefer maybe a McCarthy and then an Egan or an O'Connell, but I just favor Walker Peters because he is playing in that fullback position, and you know how I love fullbacks because of their attacking threat, and I definitely think Walker Peters has that. So my other 4.5 option that I've gone for is Vinagre from Wolves, and the reason I've gone for him is the likes of Johnny is still injured. Now whether he's going to come back from injury anytime soon, as far as I know, it is a long-term injury. So I think at 4.5 million to get a Wolves player, the Wolves players and defenders especially are kind of set up like the Sheffield United defenders. You usually have to pay about 5 million to get an entry into that defense. So at 4.5, I think Vinagre is definitely a good option. Apologies for the pronunciation there as well. My Spanish/Portuguese is not on par. So as I say, apologies for the pronunciation if I'm getting it wrong. The rest of the defense you can see on the bench, I've opted for Ferguson. Now Ferguson has the potential to be the new Wan-Bissaka/Lundstrom. He comes in at 4 million, newly signed for Crystal Palace, and he is playing at that fullback position. So we'll just have to look over preseason and see if he is guaranteed to start. And then obviously I also have Taylor from Burnley. I need a Burnley defender at 4.5. They're just so consistent over the entire season with those clean sheets, so he definitely will be coming in. If you need to downgrade someone, maybe downgrade Taylor. It's another 4 million option, but I definitely do like the fact that I have some playing players on the bench that if they do have to come on, they still could get some FPL points. Now going into the midfield is a little bit more exciting than the defense. We're starting off with probably the surprise pick that you're wondering why I have him in my squad. It's going to be the likes of Willian. Now with Willian and Pepe, they're coming at the same price. I've just opted for Willian here as he is a newly transferred player and should be getting a starting lineup role, hopefully, or at least get some guaranteed game time. But with Willian, you know I spoke about those transfers for Greenwood coming in, so Willian's going to be the player that I bring in. So I'm going to see how he performs against Fulham. Just remember, he could also become Pepe, so we're going to see how he does against Fulham, and then we could keep him for that West Ham fixture, or we could take him out, depending on if I want to take him out or not. So Willian comes in here as a little bit of a differential, maybe a 1 week punt, maybe a 2 week punt, just for the fun of it, as I do really like those opening 2 fixtures for Arsenal. The other player we have in here is Saint Maximum. He also has West Ham up front. Newcastle have some relatively good fixtures fixtures out of those budget lineups. But at 5.5 million, I think if he stays injury-free this season, he can be on for a really stellar season. Really good, skillful player that I always love watching, and he definitely passes the eye test. So he comes in as our 5.5 option. You could also go for the likes of Armstrong, also a really good option there, but I just wanted some variation as I do still have Danny Ings up front, who we'll talk about in a little bit. Then we have Aubameyang and Salah, our 12 million duo there. So Aubameyang, as I said, has great fixtures along with Arsenal, and then Salah is just almost a season keeper for me. He's been so consistent over the last 3 seasons, has always been one of the most highest scoring FPL players, so he's definitely going to be in my lineup and probably my captain for game week 1. Going into the striking department, I still think there's some really good options up front, even though everyone's kind of drawn to the midfield. But with Danny Ings, hopefully he has another golden boot race season. I definitely got the fixtures to back at the start of it, so he comes in the lineup. Mitrovic from Fulham. I spoke about Fulham being my favorite promoted side in terms of fixtures. They might not be the best team in the Premier League, but I definitely do think there's some nice fixtures coming up, and they are going to have to score some goals up front because I don't think their defense is that great. So Mitrovic comes into my lineup to kind of put a little bit of a budget feel to that starting lineup. And then we have Timo Werner. Brighton away is a really good fixture for the start of it, and with the way Chelsea are signing players, they're definitely going to be a force to reckon with in this upcoming season. So he's definitely going to be in my lineup. And I think at 9.5 million, he can almost prove good for the money and good value with just how prolific he was last season in the Bundesliga. On the bench, there's nothing much to talk about. Stevens comes in here as I needed a 4.5 playing midfielder, and you kind of can remember him. He's always kind of a legend in that 4.5 market. Doesn't really score many goals, but at least he plays. And then I spoke about Ferguson and Taylor. With Button, I probably will change him out for another 4 million keeper because I'm just worried about that high ownership. If he does have a price drop, that's going to be quite disappointing. But this is basically my first draft that I have looked at. It's probably going to change, but I think I'm really happy with it currently, and I think I'll wait for those preseason fixtures to kind of see if I do make any more changes. Let me know down below what you think of this draft. You're probably going to rinse me for a player like Willian being in my lineup, but as I said, he's kind of a 1 week or a 2 week punt here. Also post your drafts down below. I'd love to see them and how you guys are getting on. This is basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. I know you guys have been asking for my first draft, so finally it is released. Don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you're new or have not subscribed yet for all that, as I said, juicy preseason FPL content. I'll be checking you guys very soon. I'm going to be signing off. This has been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.